Thunder Ridge Homestead here, and we're going to do a real quick update. I've been out doing a little prepping for winter this morning, and as you can see, what I have here is a truckload of hay. And one thing that new homesteaders need to be aware of is that they need to source their winter feed, like their hay. I just picked this up today, a few towns east of me, and it's really nice hay. In our part of the country, we can pick up the hay like in the field right after it's being baled, or we can pick it up from the farmer that's already been picked up, put in the barn, and the price is usually a lot cheaper if you can get it right out of the field, because obviously the farmer doesn't have to handle it that much. If you can get it where you can pick it up like we did this morning, picked it up out of a barn. It's been stored, but he hasn't had to store it for very long. By us buying this hay, it makes room, so he has room to store more hay, and you can get a good price on it this way. But that does mean that you need a way to store the hay yourself so that you can keep it in good shape. Right now, this hay that I have on this truck is alfalfa mixed with orchard grass, which will be a good mixed hay for my sheep this winter. Then I feed also pure alfalfa when they have lambs and when I need to have higher milk production and stuff like that. So you are what you eat, and the sheep and other animals that we have on our farm are what they eat as well. Cattle can usually be fed a lower grade of hay, but goats and sheep, contrary to popular belief, they need decent hay, or they need grain, because they need nutrients. And you can either spend the money on the grain, or you can spend money on good hay. And me, myself, I'd much rather feed them good hay and not feed them grain if I can help it at all. Like I said, I need a way to get the hay to me. Now, a lot of places around here will deliver. I have had people deliver in the past, and I usually do that because I actually have to pay somebody to unload this hay for me. And they loaded it for free, but I have to pay somebody to unload it for me because of my arthritis. I cannot handle this many bales. This is 26 bales. And you have to have a good place, like I said, a good dry place for it to be stored. Now, we do have our barn, and we will put this hay on pallets, but we will also tarp it to keep the dust off of it and to keep it as dry as possible. Planning ahead, I'm always saying to homestead head first. This means you have to have money for winter hay and for your winter's feed to take you all the way through the winter by June, July. We're actually a little bit late this season because this is August when we're getting this hay, but you want to be sure you have all of your hay sourced, and you've also got the best control of the quality of hay you buy way before fall, because if you don't, then you're either not going to be able to find good hay, or you're not going to be able to pay for it because it's going to be extremely expensive. Also, most hay places, they don't take credit cards, folks. You have to have cash in hand. Very few will even take a check anymore. So you have to plan ahead, and you have to plan ahead financially. A lot of times, what happens with sheep anyway, this is the time of the year that we're starting to sell some sheep. We have sold 2 ewe lambs already. We have a 3rd ewe lamb for sale. We have some meat sheep for sale. And as I sell my sheep, I'm putting the money back in to the homestead by investing in hay for winter. You have to do that. Once you have all of your stuff stored for winter and ready to go, then you can count your profits and make a little money and spend a little money. But until then, you need to reinvest your money. They're, like I said, I paid $7 a bale for these, and if I would have had them delivered, it would have been an additional $1 a bale. That adds up. especially if you're feeding 100 bales of hay. We feed approximately 15 bales per ewe per winter, so I have a good idea of how much hay I need. If you've never done it before, you might err on the side of, more hay, 20 bales per ewe per winter, and that's to carry you through a pretty long, hard, snowy winter. Remember, just because spring is hit doesn't mean you're going to have grass. We didn't have grass this year until it was close to March or April, I think, before we really started getting enough grass, because the winter was just hanging in. So we still had to feed a little hay. And at that time of year, you can't find hay. The only place I could have found it would be at the feed store, and it's in compressed bales, and it was $12 to $14 a bale. And you don't want to spend that kind of money unless you have to. And it just takes all your profits away. I'll try to shoot another little ending to this when I get it all stacked and stored, and so you can see how we stack it. We are in the barn now. I wanted to show you the hay, how we have it stacked. And the way you store your hay is very important if you want it to retain its nutritional value, and if you want it to be safe, basically, in the barn. You'll notice that first of all we have a wooden skid down beneath the hay layers, and it can be wooden or plastic, either one, but that allows the hay to breathe. It gives air up underneath it so that the bottom bale of hay is not wasted by sitting in dust or dirt or having animals bury through it or something like that. If if you ever have a mouse in the barn or anything, or a possum. The next thing that's very, 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 very important is I want you to notice that the bottom row of bales, at least, preferably the entire stack, you stack as the hay grows. So in other words, the top of the bale, like this, is where you would pull the flakes apart. Can you see this? And the side here is where the strings are. And the reason you stack your hay that way, it's very important because it allows moisture to rise, and the moisture is going to go up, through the hay. And that does several things. First of all, if your hay has any moisture in it when you bale it, it allows the hay to continue to keep drying while it's in the stack. If you turn it the other direction, the way the hay baler works, it's folded down on this side and flat and tight, and it won't let the air go through the bale. And it'll mold, or if it's been baled fairly wet, it can actually catch fire. It can actually be combustible. So you need to always, always, always stack at least the bottom row down, preferably all of the hay, especially if you have any kind of an idea that it may possibly be slightly moist. You want all of your hay stacked on edge like that, so that it continue the moisture to wick away from the hay bale, and it will continue to dry out. Also, as you notice, we have all the hay, by the way, stacked on edge like that. That's just the best way to stack it. Also, when you stack a bale on its side like this, if anything does dig or bury or get moist, or the barn floods, or you have any kind of issue, the hay will only get, like, the bottom of the bale down here will get wet, and the rest of the hay bale will be salvageable sometimes, depending on what's happened to it. If it's laying on its side, on the rope side, varmints can chew the strings, or of course wire-tied bales, you don't have that problem, but varmints can chew the strings on them easier, and the bales can be broken on the bottom of the stack, which makes a giant mess. Or if it gets damp, the whole bale will go. The whole bale will rot. It'll just sit in the water and soak it up and not be able to let the moisture come out, and so the whole bale will rot on the bottom. So it's very important to always have the bale up on a skid and stacked on edge. The next thing that we do in the barn, always, whenever we have a the stack of bales, is we cover at least the top with the tarp. What that does is that prevents any birds that come in the barn and they're perching up on the rafters and stuff like that. They would like poop on top of the hay, which would spoil your hay. Also, it keeps dust off of the hay. It keeps more daylight off of the hay. The best thing you can do, if you can do it, is to tarp the whole stack, because it's like keeping any kind of produce at your house. Daylight decomposes it, and moisture decomposes it, and dirt decomposes it. And so to keep the nutritional value as high as possible, you want to keep it at least the top of it dust covered for the bales, and the bottom. It would even be okay, I've got a regular standard tarp, it would even be okay if you had just a cloth cover on the top. That would still, especially if you had wet bales, I would probably put something that would allow moisture to pass through it on the top. That way it would be covered from, you know, dust and bird feces and things like that, but it would still allow the moisture to come out of your stack. So storing your hay is very important. I wanted to give you a little finish up for that. And also, it's just like I said, it's just planning. It's time to start planning. Even in the middle of summer, you have to plan how much feed you need for the winter. You have to have everything on hand so that when the time comes, you're ready to go and your animals are properly taken care of. Glad that you were able to come with us today, and thanks for coming and watching our videos. I hope you learned something. If you ever have any questions, please feel free to either email me at thunderridgehomestead@gmail.com. Thanks for watching.